The Santoso family has been feeling sad lately.
We felt this way ever since my daughter Ranti married Abdullah.
Yes, they come from different religions. We're all Christians, and Ranti converted to Islam to marry Abdullah.
Now, she often treats us as if we are impure, najis, unworthy of contact, just like what happened yesterday.
Ranti and Abdullah visited her parents' house.
Welcome, welcome. Please have lunch with us.
Yes, Mom. We brought our own plates and cups.
Why is that? Why don't you want to use ours?
I'm sorry, Mom. But now that I'm Muslim, I can't use the same plates. I used to eat pork and keep dogs. It's all haram and najis for me now.
They have been your puppies since you were a child. What's wrong with you? Huh? Do you consider us najis too?
I'm sorry, ma'am, but that's what Allah says in the Qur'an.
Huh?
The next day, Mrs. Santoso went to a small department store owned by Mr. Effendi, a man of Turkish descent, to do some shopping.
Mr. Effendi, I'd like to buy plates and glasses for my daughter Ranti and her Muslim family.
Your daughter is a Muslim now? Since when?
Yes, since she married Abdullah, her schoolmate. I never thought she would change after converting. Now she says we're infidels, that we eat haram pork, keep haram dogs, and so on. How could she change so drastically in such a short time?
Well, you may need to understand the true nature of Islam and the purpose behind what Prophet Muhammad taught. The religion often shapes Muslims to antagonize non-Muslims.
Huh? Is that really the case?
Yes, I know this. I'm from Turkey. We were among the first tribes to embrace Islam after the Arabs. You see, ma'am? Despite its religious veneer, Islam can easily be defined and understood by one non-religious word: tribalism. The entire appeal of Muhammad's call to the Arabs of his time lay in its perfect compatibility with their tribal mores, three in particular: loyalty to one's tribe, enmity for other tribes, and raids on the latter to enrich and empower the former. For 7th century Arabs, and later tribal and pastoral peoples, such as the Turks and Tatars, or Mongols, who also found natural appeal in, and converted to, Islam, the tribe was what humanity is to modern people. To be part of the tribe was to be treated humanely. To be outside the tribe was to be treated inhumanely, period. Muhammad reinforced this ancient dichotomy of tribalism, but by prioritizing religion over relatives. Thus, in his Constitution of Medina, which he promulgated with various non-Muslim tribes in 622, he asserted that a believer shall not slay a believer for the sake of an unbeliever, nor shall he aid an unbeliever against a believer. Moreover, all Muslims were to become friends one to the other to the exclusion of outsiders. Hence the Ummah, which is often translated as Muslim nation, was born, etymologically connected to the word mother, The Ummah came to signify the Islamic super tribe, a universal tribe that transcends racial, national, and linguistic barriers, encompassing any and all who identify as Muslims. And, Its natural enemies remained everyone outside of it. Again, this is basic tribalism 1.0, though, as mentioned, with religious dressing. Or consider the Islamic doctrine of al-Wala wal-Bara, translated as loyalty and enmity, or love and hate. Muhammad preached it, and the Qur'an commands. Taken together, for example, Qur'an Surah Al-Mujadila verse 22 and Surah Al-Mumtahana verse 4 call on all Muslims to renounce and disown their non-Muslim relatives, even if they be their fathers, their sons, their brothers, or their nearest kindred, and to feel only enmity and hatred for them, until they believe in Allah alone, that is, until they become Muslim. The two verses, Al-Mujadila 22 and Al-Mumtahana 4, are referring to a number of Muhammad's close companions who, according to Islamic history, renounced and in some cases slaughtered their own non-Muslim relatives as a show of their loyalty to Allah and the believers. Examine Ibn Kathir's tafsir of Surah Al-Mujadila, verse 22. This ayah was revealed during the Badr robbery when Abu Ubaidah killed his own father. Likewise, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the first rightly guided caliph, almost killed his non-Muslim son, Abdul Rahman. Similarly, Musab bin Umair is said to have slain his brother, Ubaid bin Umair, while Umar reportedly killed one of his relatives. Additionally, figures such as Hamza, Ali, and Ubaidah bin al-Harith also took the lives of close family members. At any rate, from here we come to the natural origin of jihad. Tribalistic blood ties were exchanged for religious ones, thereby dividing the world into two mega-tribes: the believers in one tent and their natural enemies, the non-believers or infidels, in another. And as we've seen, the essence of tribalism is warring and preying on other tribes in order to empower your own. This dichotomized worldview is actually enshrined in Islamic laws, or Sharia's mandate, that Dar al-Islam, the abode of Islam, or the world of Islam, must battle Dar al-Kufr, the abode or world of non-Islam, in perpetuity until the former subjugates the latter. In, for example, the Encyclopedia of Islam, we read under the entry for Jihad that the spread of Islam by arms is a religious duty upon Muslims in general. Jihad must continue to be done until the whole world is under the rule of Islam. Islam must completely be made over before the doctrine of jihad can be eliminated. In other words, the doctrine of jihad, warfare on the other, is so pivotal to Islam that without it, Islam ceases to be.
This is the path of blood that we have chosen. We will complete our jihad journey to the end.
Islam's apotheosis, or deification, of tribalism also explains why tribal societies other than the Arabs also gravitated to and found Islam appealing. Consider the Turkic people's oldest epic, the Book of 𝘔𝘓𝘓. Although newly converted to Islam, the Turks of the epic regularly engage in pagan practices banned by Islam. They eat horse meat and drink wine and other fermented drinks, and their women are, in comparison to Muslim women, relatively free. It is only in the context of raids on the infidel, a smooth and easy transition from raids on the tribal outsider, that Islam finally become evident in their lives. Here, for example, is a typical pre-battle boast from the Turks of the epic.
I shall raid the bloody infidel's land. I shall cut off heads and spill blood. I shall make the infidel vomit blood. I shall bring back slaves and slave girls.
Here is another typical account these new Turkish converts' pious exploits.
They destroyed the infidel's church. They killed its priests and made a mosque in its place. They had the call to prayer proclaimed. They had the invocation, or shahada, recited in the name of Allah Almighty, the best of the hunting birds, the purest of stuffs, the loveliest of girls. They selected.
Aside from preying on the infidel other, which already came natural to the pre-Islamic Turks, any and all nonviolent aspects of Islam, fasting, zakat, pilgrimage, are totally absent from the lives of these earliest Turkic converts as portrayed in the book of 𝘔𝘬𝘠𝘠.
We, the Turks, take the most practical route to heaven, okay? You can go ahead and do fasting, zakat, hajj, and whatever else. But you'll still end up in hell. But if I skip all of that and focus on jihad, then I'm guaranteed heaven, whether I live or die.
Even so, the older Muslim peoples, the Arabs and Persians, praise the new converts simply because,
well, they fight in the way of Allah, waging jihad against the infidels. So that's good, right?
being committed to the jihad has always gone a long way to exonerate otherwise un-Islamic behavior among Muslims, as if to say,
well, yeah, at least they're doing the hard part, war on infidels, so give them a break.
It was the same for those Mongols who embraced Islam. As the Dominican friar 𝘔𝐿𝐷𝘪𝘍 died in 1320, who spent a decade in the Muslim world, once observed, the Tartars had adopted Islam because it was the easy religion, as Christianity was the hard one.
For those who love to plunder as a way to earn a living, choose Islam, okay? Prophet Muhammad did the same, and it is permitted by Allah.
You need to understand that we embraced Islam because it offers the best way to make a living, by plundering and robbing the infidels to please Allah. That's the key point.
In other words, whereas Islam complemented their pre-existing tribal way of living, including by giving them license to prey on all outsiders, Christianity only challenged it.
So it is that Muhammad's most enduring contribution to world history is that, in repackaging the tribal mores of 7th century Arabia through a theological paradigm, he also deified tribalism into a sort of hyper-tribalism, causing it to outlive its historic setting and dramatically spill into the modern era. Hence, the notorious resistance to assimilation in the West, the creation of enclaves and clannish no-go zones, and the constant flare-outs of terrorism and hate crimes. Whereas many world civilizations have been able to break away from, or at least temper their historic tribalism, this has not been, and cannot be, so easy for Islam. For Muslims to break away from tribalism is for them to break away from Allah's laws. That's just not possible.
If Allah wants us to be primitive forever, then so be it.
Islam isn't that extreme here.
Well, ma'am, the radical Muslims have been trying to establish a caliphate in Indonesia with Islamic Sharia from the time of independence in 1945 up to the present day.
Hugh, I was just going shopping, but instead I was lectured on the nature of Islam. But indeed, if the moral example of Islam is to kill non-Muslim family members just to loot their property, then it is no wonder why my daughter is drifting further and further away from us. Honestly, is there any religion in the world as cruel as Islam? I'm starting to feel like I've lost not only my daughter, but maybe even my future grandchildren too.